How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Athletes Hub podcast. It's been another busy weekend of football. I think one story's kind of dominated the football this weekend, and that is, I'm sure you all know, is Mohammed Salah and his comments regarding his future at Liverpool. So after the 3-3 draw against Leeds United, he was pulled by some journalists in the mix zone, and he went on to discuss his frustrations at the club at the moment, his future at the club, his relationship with Arne Slot. Just a whole different bunch of, I guess, quotes and a lot of attacks. Really, I've got to say on Liverpool Football Club. I don't know what you guys think, but I think when I read those comments on Saturday, it just kind of felt to me as if I was really unsure about what the end goal is here for Mohammed Salah. We all know. I don't think it was a shock. I think we kind of knew that he's been frustrated over recent weeks. He's not been playing. He's been left out. Liverpool haven't been playing very well at all. We've spoken about it on our weekly roundups. So I don't think we're surprised by, I guess, his frustration and his comments regarding the current situation. I think what kind of surprised me was how scathing the attack was on the club and also on the manager, who's basically come out and said that they've lied to him. You know, he's accused Arne Slot of failing to live up to his promises. He's come out and said that the club have thrown him under the bus, that somebody doesn't want him there anymore. And he also came out with a bizarre comment saying he hasn't got to earn his place, or he hasn't got to fight for his place because he's earned it already, which is kind of strange to me. And I don't know what the end goal is here for Salah. Listen, Salah's been not just one of the best African players in Premier League history. I think he's been one of the best players in Premier League history. That's a fact. He's been sensational since joining Liverpool in 2017. But I think when you come out and you make these comments about the football club, you make comments about the manager, basically accusing the club of lying to you. He mentioned about promises being made that haven't been fulfilled. I just don't see what the goal is here, because we all know there's been frustration there. He's not played well. Other players like Van Dijk have come out and had exchanges with pundits such as Wayne Rooney about performance levels and just the overall performance of the team this season. But I just didn't really understand what the end goal would be here, to be honest. I know he's got a AFCON tournament coming up in January. So Liverpool do play against Milan this week, and then they've also got a game next weekend against Brighton. And then after that, Salah goes on to the African Cup. But I just didn't really understand sort of, again, what the aim is here, because when you come out and you attack a football club, despite everything he's done for Liverpool, listen, I think it's easy to say that, Salah's been one of the best players, probably the best player in the last decade for Liverpool. That's for sure. He's won everything there is to win. He's been integral in their success, as much as, the likes of Van Dijk's been there, Alisson as well, even Mane, Firmino. Salah has definitely been a standout player for sure because of his consistent performance levels, his sensational goals, the amount of goals he scored, the contributions. He's been outstanding. But when you come out and you make these comments about the club, I don't see if that can be repaired, because you're kind of accusing, or you're kind of highlighting the integrity of a football club by saying that, they're throwing you under the bus, somebody doesn't want you there. But when you say someone doesn't want you there, why not just come out and say who that person is, right? Is it the manager? Is it someone in the hierarchy? It kind of reminds me of Ronaldo's situation with Ten Hag, when prior to the 2022 World Cup, we could kind of see friction there. Ten Hag made some comments about Ronaldo. Ronaldo did the same. And then ultimately, Ronaldo went on to Piers Morgan's show, gave a scathing interview about the club and Ten Hag, and he was no longer there after the World Cup. And I'm not sure if Salah's trying to go for something similar here, because I just don't see how. I mean, if Klopp was still manager of Liverpool, would he come out with these comments? I mean, he's clashed with Klopp a few times. I'm not sure if you guys remember the West Ham game a couple of seasons ago when he was left on the bench before he came onto the pitch. Him and Klopp had a bit of an exchange on the sidelines. So Salah, and again, him and Mane have had a few clashes as well. So Salah's not, I guess this is nothing new, but it's just how deep he's been scathing about the club, which is a bit stranger. And again, he mentioned about promises in football, and listen, Salah's not played well enough this season. The reason why he's been left out is because he's not played well enough. If we compare him to Salah of last year and even the years prior to that, he's been sensational. But this year, for whatever level, he's not been there, whether it's fatigue, whether it's because of his friend Diego Jota dying, which we can't overlook. Jota was very close to a lot of the players at Liverpool. Andy Robertson came out after Scotland qualified for the World Cup and said that he and Jota had actually discussed the possibility of Scotland qualifying before he died, and you could tell how close he was to Jota and just the whole squad really. So that would have hit the team hard for sure. But for whatever reason, key players like Salah and Van Dijk has come out and he's stood up. One player you see every time Liverpool, don't do well is Van Dijk. He's done many interviews. He's even written a statement. Clashed with the likes of Wayne Rooney. When Rooney accused Van Dijk of dipping his performance levels after securing a new contract, which we'll get onto. But Van Dijk's always been, and Van Dijk's always said, "Listen, I've not been good enough. We need to improve." But when Salah came out with the comments, you didn't hear anything about him putting his hands up and saying, "Well, listen, I've not been good enough this season." A lot of it was, "Well, Liverpool have thrown me under the bus. They don't want me there anymore. They've made promises to me." There was nothing about, "Listen, I've been poor this season. I hold my hands up. I'm gonna go to AFCON, and when I do get back, we're gonna carry on trying to end the season well." There was none of that there. And he came out and said he hasn't got to fight for his place because he's earned it. Salah's a sensational player again, but to say you don't have to earn your place, you haven't got to fight for it, that's strange. You're essentially saying, probably didn't say it consciously, and I think he was probably very emotional when he said that. But that says to me that you're thinking in your mind that you're better than everyone else. Yes, you've been integral to the club's success. Yes, you've been a fantastic player in the Premier League, the last 10 years of Premier League history. But every player has to fight for their place. No player has a God-given right unless you're, prime Messi or prime Ronaldo. But again, they're two unique beasts, right? And Salah at one point wasn't Messi or Ronaldo, but was playing at that level. So he probably feels as if in his mind that he's probably earned it because of what he's done for the football club. But at the same time, you're still a player. You're still under contract. You're still an employee of Liverpool Football Club. And when players start to have the mindset where they haven't got to but that shows in the pitch though. Because when you say you haven't got to fight for players, you've earned it. That means you don't think you've got to track back. It feels like it means that you don't feel like you have to do your defensive duties or be held accountable when the team doesn't play well. Every player on the planet is held accountable when the team doesn't play well. When the team's winning and it's great, you're getting awards, everyone loves that. But if you're a senior player in this team and you're a senior player at a football club and things are going badly, that's when you stand up and you're accountable, right? And you hold your hands up. Salah's not done any of that. Even going back to last year when he was talking about the contract, he spoke about, did the club really want me here? Did they value me, etc., etc. When players start getting some mindset at any football club where they feel as if they're the most important player there or the manager's not the most important player or most important person at the football club, I think that's a worrying time for Liverpool, And again, you go back to what he said about Arne Slot. He basically said that there's no relationship now. There was a good relationship last season when they won the league and he was playing fantastic and everything was going well. But this season, there's no relationship and it's just non-existent. But the thing about Arne Slot, we've spoken about this in our weekly rounds-up. Slot at the moment, I still don't think he knows what his best team is. And Slot's under pressure to get results. And you could argue that Salah's a passenger in a team. You could argue that Van Dijk is. Even Konate's been a passenger at Liverpool this season because they just don't know how to stop conceding goals. Right, they probably should have won on Saturday. Consider a last-minute goal against Leeds. It probably would have felt like a loss to them. But Slot at the moment is in a position where he has to get results. And I've spoken about this with Flexx many times, about him not knowing what his best team is and having to change something. If you've got to drop Salah, you drop him. If you've got to drop Van Dijk, you drop him. Because ultimately, results will decide, not just Slot, but for any manager. And we've spoken about this with Ruben Amorim as well. Results decide how a manager or what their status is at a football club. If you get results, you'll stay. If you don't get results, you won't stay. And Slot, again, is in a position now where he has to get results to survive in his job. And if that means taking you off or dropping Salah and bringing someone else in, who's going to work hard, who's going to track back, who's going to give 100%, who feels like they've got to fight on the pitch, then Slot has to do that. Because at the end of the day, as much as we criticise him, he's got to get results. If he doesn't get results, he won't be there. So Salah said, well, Slot's throwing me under the bus. But you could also argue with Salah's comments, he's throwing Slot under the bus because he's accused him of, not living up to promises, saying that the promises were made and he's not been playing. But you're basically saying the manager's lying to you or someone at the club is lying to you, right? So I just don't see how the relationship gets repaired. Listen, clubs and at clubs this happens all the time. Managers and players fall out. Obviously, it's not a good scenario. Slot's not winning games. Liverpool aren't winning matches. Salah's not playing well, and he's not playing. So ultimately, that's not going to be a happy camp at the moment, right? But when you come out and you put this in the media, because again, the media, when things go badly at any football club, whether it's United, Liverpool, whatever football club it might be, the media are looking for a reason why that's going badly, and they want to split, whether it's a split between the manager and the player, whether it's a split between teammates, whether it's a split between the manager and the hierarchy, whether that might be. The club are looking for a reason to kind of, I guess, find out the reason why, things are not going well at football club. So for you to come out and to throw him under the bus the way he did, and again, I'm not surprised by him be frustrated. It's just the comments, and again, I just don't see what the short-term goal is here. Is he asking the club to choose between him and Slot? But again, it goes back to it. Any football club, whether it's United, Liverpool, Arsenal, wherever football club it might be around the whole world, right? I feel like the manager has to be the most important player or the most important figure at that football club. The moment that players feel like they can dictate what happens, and I think it's very dangerous at that point. So he's probably saying, well, I'm going to African Cup. I don't feel the manager's good enough. Maybe has Slot lost a dressing room? Maybe he has. We don't know. So he's probably thinking, well, Slot's not going to be here for much longer. We're not playing well. He's lost a dressing room. I'm going to come out. I'm going to make these comments because I'm a legend at Liverpool. I don't have to earn my place, like he said, or fight for my place. So ultimately, the club will choose me. But it doesn't always work like that. And I look at promises in football. I don't think promises in football really exist now because, you could be promised a transfer by a football club, but if your performance dips, then your valuation dips. And then therefore the other party, the other football club might not want to pursue that deal anymore. If you get an injury, that might affect your chances of joining a new football club. Again, if you're promised playing time by a manager, if that manager gets sacked or loses his job, and another manager comes in, you're not automatically, I guess, guaranteed a starting spot. They're not obliged to play you, right? So football promises, quote unquote, don't really exist because it very much depends on what's suitable for the player and the club at that present time. Because ultimately, all this is investment. Players get invested in, managers get invested in. And if you don't achieve the goals that the club set, then it's a loss for the football club, right? So, again, Salah's in his 30s now, approaching mid-30, was great last season, but, he's would you say it's the same? I don't know if he's still a great player, but is he still the same player he was 3 years ago? We don't know. Performances this season will suggest not, right? So the club have to decide, are we going to go with a long-term vision with Slot, who, won the Premier League last year? He's going to be here for a number of years, or do we side with a player who's in their 30s, who we've put heavy money in, but isn't repaying that right now, right? And this goes back again to last season when we look at the contract situation with all three of these guys, actually, Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and obviously Mo Salah. All three players were in a spotlight last year because of their contract situation at Liverpool. As much as Trent was very quiet about his situation, and Van Dijk was, I think Mo was the most vocal, did various interviews about it. But if you look at all three players in this scenario, actually, they were all, in the spotlight last year because of their contract situations, but they've all this season been very, very bad in terms of performance. Trent's gone to Madrid. Again, there's different factors there. It's a different country, different language, a different culture, a different club, manager, players, etc. So this, I guess he's got to get used to that, right? Whereas with Van Dijk and Mohammed Salah, they were there last season in Liverpool. They've been there for past 7-8 years. They were in the league comfortably last season. So you would expect that they'll just carry on that form, right? And what's the excuse for the bad performance levels? Again, Jota tragically passing away would have affected the team massively, for sure. But again, you look back to instances this season when it comes to defending, when it comes to effort on the pitch, these things have to be sorted out by the players, right? But again, it goes back to what I was saying before. You look at Salah, should he really be given a new contract last year from Liverpool? This is a player who's approaching he's in the early 30s. Last year was sensational last season, and you're probably thinking, is he going to get to the same levels this season? They put heavy money behind him. Trent was probably the youngest out of the three, but he probably wanted to go to Madrid because it's a massive draw, it's a different challenge. But with Van Dijk and Salah, two of the players who've been highlighted for their performances this season, poor performances, you just kind of think, well, you could have lost all three of them last season, but at the same time, with Salah, are we really going to get another level like we got last season from Salah? the club would have been thinking that, right? So it's something that you kind of look back now, you kind of think, well, maybe they didn't really get an investment based on what's going on now. And he's come out now, he's got 18 months on his contract, and he's probably saying, well, it's either me or Arne Slot. And again, if you're a football club and you're given that ultimatum, you have to then be very careful, because I go back to, using Arsenal as an example here. When Arteta first joined Arsenal as a coach, he and Aubameyang didn't see eye to eye. He felt as if Aubameyang was a problem. But the club backed Arteta. They got rid of Aubameyang. And Aubameyang was a fan favourite, and the fans weren't happy with that decision. But as you can see, in the long term, the club backed him and said, listen, you're the manager. Whatever you decide, we'll back you. We'll stick with you because we believe in your vision. And they got rid of him. And obviously, Arsenal haven't won the trophy since then, but they're a very good team now. And Arteta's building something, as you can see. So sometimes managers have to be backed and have to be the most important player, of course, or the most important person, sorry. But of course, that comes down to results. But it will come down again to whether, Slot gets the results. But I think, again, with Salah, if you look at, the comments on what he said, I just don't see what the end goal is here. I don't see what he's trying to achieve. Is he trying to create a standoff? Because if you accuse a manager of lying to you and a club of throwing under the bus, despite him being a legend at the football club and a Premier League legend, I just don't see how that gets resolved. I don't see how that's all just forgiven, right? And again, we saw with Ronaldo, he was at the Qatar World Cup in 2022. That was easy for United to kind of end that relationship. Will we see something similar with Salah? Who knows? If Saudi come in the January and they try and match his wages and take him, maybe we could see him leave. But yes, it's a strange one, really. I don't know what you guys think, though, to be honest. Liverpool fans, I don't know what you think. Listen, I'm not a Liverpool fan, but he's a Premier League legend for sure. And I just don't know if, based on the comments on Saturday, if that can be repaired. But listen, let me know what you guys think in the comments, Liverpool fans. Do you think he should stay? Do you think he should go? What's your thoughts on Arne Slot? Do you think he will be sacked by the end of the season? What's your thoughts on Virgil van Dijk as well? And just your overall thoughts on what's going on in Liverpool right now, because it seems as if obviously Salah's not happy there, manager's struggling, Liverpool haven't spent all the money they've spent, and I've said to Flexx many times, they spend a lot of money, and it's the manager's job to find a solution to this. But it seems as if they're still trying to put the right pieces in the puzzle. So what you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And again, thanks for your support as always, guys. Thanks for watching as always. Thanks for you guys engaging. It means a lot. Follow us on all our social platforms. And I'll see you guys all in the next one.